Write your book now. That's the name of today's presentation. And it's also the name of the upcoming mastermind that we have.
Mm-hmm.
Write your book now to change the world or to rock the world for just one. Writing a book is a really intimate experience. And it's a very difficult journey to take all by yourself. It's a little frightening. It's something that feels really grand, but when you can break it down into little tiny steps, it will be very, very manageable. And this is
No,
a
mojito. Outside. Outside. Outside.
for individuals who wish to share their business and life solutions in a nonfiction book that they write with the help of a guide or a guidebook to change the world. This is going to be a guidebook as well, which will be available shortly on Amazon. I'm
Awesome.
that as part of it. Only 3% of the people who dream about writing that book actually write that book. And that number starts at about 80% of the population. 80% of the people out there say, you know what, I'd like to write a book. And only about 3% of that population actually finishes the book they've been dreaming about. And why is that important? Because today, publishing a book is something that's really simple if you have the right expertise. But just because you can publish a book doesn't mean you're going to write a good book. We want to make sure that you know how to write a good book. So who am I? I am Allison Nissen. I am an author, a ghostwriter, a story strategist, podcaster, speaker, a professor. I'm a co-founder. I help people bring words to life. And I call myself a story strategist because I like to help leaders perfect their business pitches and online presence through storytelling. And successful leaders use storytelling points to engage their audience and gain market share because they know that storytelling is the best form of marketing, recruiting, and fundraising. And when I'm not doing all of that, I am battling dog hair and laundry. Books change the world, and they are everywhere. Some make a really big impact. I mean, let's think about James Clear's Atomic Habits. James Clear's Atomic Habits, it changed the world for a ton of people. People that want to start new habits, people that want to change something in their lives. And that book made a big difference. And then there's other books like Jeanette Wall's Glass Castle, which is one of my absolute favorites. But that's a book that's more intimate in that it's a memoir and it's about her experience. What is similar about these two books, however, is it makes an impact and it changes the world. And you might ask yourself, how do you get started writing a book? It is a really, really big ask. To write a well-crafted manuscript, you need to understand things like first and last lines, transitions, pacing, and you need to have an authentic voice. You need to use sensory descriptions. You need to use all sorts of things in order to create something that connects with your audience. When you can connect with your audience, you gain their trust. So how do you go ahead and do that? Well, with the help of a guide or a guidebook. And that's what I want to share with you today. It's just a little bit of a blueprint using heroic design. So heroic design is a step-by-step plan that will take you from your bucket list of writing a book to finishing the book. Heroic design is a blend of design thinking. And design thinking is the idea of taking problems that exist in the world, breaking them down, thinking about how the audience, and I'm going to put that in air quotes, how the audience is troubled by problems and how we can fix it. Consider Henry Ford. Henry Ford had a problem, and it wasn't to build a faster horse. He wanted to build more cars. He came up with this creative idea called the assembly line. And people loved it in that, wow, he could really get a car from start to finish in a very short amount of time. But it created a secondary problem. He had employees that were bored and did not want to work on the assembly line. So what did he do? He ended up creating a jobs program geared towards the employees. He would pay them more. He required them to work fewer hours. And people who had left his shop because they were bored came back. So he did two things. He started the assembly line and he created a stronger workforce. And along the way, as a byproduct from all of this, he created charcoal briquettes. Just a little known fact that you may or may not know. But that's design thinking, taking a problem, empathizing with your audience, turning it inside out, and trying to recreate something in a better, more robust way. The second part of heroic design is using the hero's journey. The hero's journey is the idea of Luke Skywalker or Harry Potter. We have our hero and they have their struggles and they must overcome the demons. And they do it all with the help of a guide. This is what we are doing here, is the guide is you. When you write your nonfiction book, whether it's an inspirational book, a self-help or self-discovery book, or a memoir, you are the guide for that person. You are connecting with your audience and you are showing them the way in a manner that is very similar to what they're experiencing. And you're saying, trust me, you are the guide. You aren't the hero. And that's what makes this so special. So we take that audience and we turn our audience into people that are our biggest fans. So there are 6 steps to using heroic design. And the first is discovering our ideal reader, what the problems our ideal reader has. And those are problems that you've also had and have overcome. The solutions that you've discovered to overcome those problems, the challenges that you faced along the way, what transformation you experienced as you overcame those challenges, and the opportunities that have presented themselves because of this transformation. So let's get to it. Let's plan a book. And now that you know a little bit about heroic design, we are going to start with the blueprint of creating an outline. And the first part, as I mentioned earlier, is the audience. When we recognize our audience's needs, their desires, and their challenges, we connect with them and we build that relationship. Writing a book, as I mentioned earlier, is intimate. Reading a book and experiencing a book is intimate, and you create that relationship. So this first part sets that foundation so that when you're in the middle of the writing process, you can ensure that you are actually connecting with that ideal reader. Your audience purchases the book, and it's so much more than just a financial transaction. It's a signification of trust, their investment of time. And is there anything more valuable in this world than time? No. Time is the most valuable thing that someone can give you. When you give somebody a book and they in turn read it, that is an investment in both. It travels both ways. So reading a book, as I mentioned, is intimate, and your audience will think of you as a friend. And when you understand them, you are talking directly to your audience as a peer, as a colleague, as a friend. So knowing your audience, knowing their interests, their challenges will help you create that connection. And at the very end of the writing process, when you know your audience on that intimate level, they also help promote and market your book because they feel like you get them. They become your biggest fans and your biggest fans are how you sell more books. First thing to do when we think about our audience is think about why they're struggling. What is it they're looking for? What is holding them back? What do they need? What do they need from you? They picked up your book for a reason. What is that reason? Exploring this much like you would a journal. So why does your audience struggle? And you can think back to why you struggled and now you want to share your journey with somebody else. So what is that struggle? And think about, why is it important? And also think about more. What else is it about that struggle that's important? And the second part is about the obstacles to success. We've all been there. We've had a problem and we figured out how to solve it. But along the way, there's obstacles. And that's the part of the climb that our audience is really interested in. Knowing our audience, we don't come out and say, hey, you're just like me. Well, we might, but that's not how it works. Knowing your audience creates that framework so that as you're talking to them, you're talking to the right person. If you're writing a book about how to repair a car, you're going to be thinking about your audience and why they want to repair their car. Maybe they want to repair classic cars. Maybe they feel they need to do something with their hands. If you have figured out how to become this great mechanic and can fix any type of car, you've overcome the obstacles to that problem of repairing a car. And that became your success. So we have a small understanding of our audience, and now we can focus on our content. So overcoming the obstacles is part of our journey's success. In the past, people would come to you, actually probably today, they come to you and they ask you for help. They ask for assistance. They trust your solution. They believe your guidance will help them become more effective, more confident, more successful in whatever it is that troubles them. Many people call this the pain point or slaying the dragon. How did you slay the dragon? That's what they want to know. How do I overcome what bothers me, the pain that I'm in? We're building trust. We're connecting with our audience. We're letting our audience know that we've been there and that we are the guide that they are looking for. When we think about the obstacles, we think about what obstacles did we face along the way? And then we think about the audience and what obstacles are common for the problems that we've had. And how do these obstacles impact productivity? There's a lot more questions that we can ask ourselves. But at the end of each one of these questions, once again, I want you to think about, why is that important? And tell me more. Why is it important that we face these obstacles? What else about those obstacles challenged us? What is it that's common among these type of obstacles? The third part, which is discovering the solutions. Now, this is the answer, right? We've been facing the dragon. We've faced the obstacles. We've faced those challenges. We've climbed those mountains. Along the way, we've figured out the solutions. We've identified and empathized with our reading audience. We've talked about our own experiences and expertise and the problems that we solve. And now we focus on those solutions. When we see an opportunity, other people see roadblocks. We want them to see the opportunities that we can see. But sometimes when you're in the middle of that problem, of that pain of slaying the dragon, you can't see beyond it. And so you are there to guide them through those roadblocks. Again, we start to ask ourselves some questions. What assumptions are limiting? As people face their dragons, they're assuming that the dragon is fire breathing. They're assuming it has sharp claws. What are they missing? Where does opportunity hide? And what bold ideas surface if failure wasn't a concern? Once again, we go back and we ask, why is that important? And tell me more. And part 4, which is overcoming our challenges. So if we think about the fact that we've had a problem, we fought the dragon, we discovered opportunities, and now we've overcome a lot of those challenges. Reflecting in the problems that the audience has and the solutions that we've had, there's challenges that come up along the way that we weren't expecting. And it's important that we address those as opportunities for our audience. What setbacks did we experience? What strategies helped us stay focused? And how did we maintain a fresh perspective? Again, they're looking at us as a guide. When we think about these questions and we go deeper, why is that important? Tell me more. Why is that important? Tell me more. We really start to determine what it is that we successfully did. We have a feeling of the success that we've had. We have an idea, like we just kind of know it. Well, it's not just about knowing it. It's how we can tell our audience that we know it and how they can understand it, making that connection. It will always go back to the audience. Without an audience, there's no book. Without a book, there's no audience. They work hand in hand. Part 5 is our transformation. So we've faced challenges, we've come up with solutions, we've slayed the dragons, and in the meanwhile, we've transformed. Again, if we go back to the hero's journey and we think about Star Wars, we think about Luke Skywalker or Harry Potter, they were different at the end of the movies. In each movie, they had an arc. Each one, they changed just a little bit. And during that period of transformation, things happened. And that's where we need to share that transformation of what it looks like on the other side. We've all experienced that where we've asked a guide, but what happens next? What happens next? Well, this is where your audience is. What happens next? We discuss our own milestones, the points along our journey where we knew we were on the right track and what it looked like once that vision cleared, once that dragon was out of the way. We were transformed. We were no longer the person who was standing up against the dragon. Now we're looking at the dragon like it's just a little thing. What does that feel like? What is that milestone that marked our growth? And how has our perspective changed? Again, follow each question with, why is that important? And tell me more. Because the deeper we can go, the easier we will be able to write our content. That, again, is key. Being able to come up with something, it's easy just to say one or two things, but we have to go deep. We need to really understand the content that we're giving our audience. And then, of course, part 6, which is success. Yay, we've made it. We've climbed to the top. So that 6th part of heroic design is success. Now we want to write a book. We want to pay it forward. We want to change the world. We have reasons for wanting to write our own book. And often it's to inspire somebody else, to encourage other people. And by sharing our solutions to the problems that we've experienced, we share that knowledge and insight, and we can empower others to do the same. And along the way, we are changing not just ourselves by sharing what we have, but we have the opportunity to share and to change the world for someone else. And I guarantee you, if you change the world for one person, that one person will tell someone, and you'll be able to change the world for 2 people. And once you change the world for 2 people, it will be 4 people. There was an old television commercial, and she told someone, and they told someone, and they told someone. That's how it works. And that's the best part about writing your story, is being able to share it with others so that you can be a change multiplier. When you share your success with the audience, and the audience is the hero of their journey, you're the guide, everyone wins. And we think about the impact that we have on others, the unexpected opportunities that come along, and what's next. Very few people slay one dragon and say, that's it, I'm hanging it up. Nah, they say, I'm going to go get that next dragon. Well, why is that important? And tell me more. What is next? Those are the opportunities that we have when we're outlining our book. And of course, writing a book is more than just creating an outline. We've all written outlines for essays, and then we've sat there and stared at a blank page. Well, that's where Write Your Book Now Mastermind comes into play. While what I'm giving you right now is going to be available on Amazon very shortly, I am also creating a mastermind, which is a 6-month program to help you embrace the heroic design outline, to find a support system, because writing is not easy. You can trust me on that one. You can articulate your book's objective. You can refine your manuscript, plan for publishing and marketing. We do this through a monthly mastermind where we get together as a group. We can ask questions. We can interview each other and discuss our projects, where we are in the writing process, where we are in the marketing process, where we are in the audience building process. There's a lot to go over, as well as editing techniques and different type of strategies for connecting with the audience beyond just the ideas that we have, but actually creating content that connects subliminally with our audience. For example, if you add smells into the writing that you have, your audience will connect with that smell without even realizing it. So now you've just painted a picture. You've put them in the middle of the room. They're experiencing something on a deeper level. So we have monthly masterminds where we talk about all of that. We also have a monthly check-in where I will review up to 1,000 words, and we will have a one-on-one once a month for an hour, scheduled scheduled a particular week of the month, but at for your schedule. So it'll fit your schedule, and it'll be able to work for both of us. I will also have 2 monthly writing room opportunities where you can sit down in a Zoom room and actually write with other people. It sounds kind of goofy, but when you're in a room with other people who are also working creatively, it rubs off and it feels really good. But also, if it's on your calendar, it gets done. If that's you, if it needs to be on your calendar, it will get done. This is the mastermind for you. Whoa. All right. So where am I? Here I am. So this is your sign. Write your nonfiction, inspirational self-help memoir book with the help of heroic design. Share your story, change the world. And then I have a cute little slide here that says, psst, it's time to stop putting off that book that you've been writing, you've been wanting to write. So I would love to know if anyone has any questions, or if I can help anyone with any inspiration.
Well, I'll start. Allison, that's amazing. I feel like I was scribbling notes, and I appreciate all your prompts and everything, gave good insight. And so I'd love to ask you, I feel like it's so often when we interview a bunch of other entrepreneurs and business executives, so many people have a goal of wanting to write a book, but I don't know of many people that actually did it. Do you have any idea on like the psychology behind why people procrastinate getting started?
I know two things about writing. Writing is hard work. It's hard work and it's lonely. You're very much by yourself, which is why having a writing room where you can come twice a month, just for an hour, helps get you out of your own head. When you're stuck in your head, it just becomes that big wall, and the writing itself becomes the dragon. So yeah, that's a problem right there. Many people think, oh, but I have, writer's block. I can't think, forget that. That's just an excuse. Creating the time and the space and allowing yourself to write poorly, go ahead, write that bad draft. That's why it's called a draft. Nobody writes perfect out of the gate, but we feel that we have to be perfect, or we don't even want to show it to someone. Well, that's what an editor is for. That's what there's all sorts of editors too. There's a developmental editor that can take a rough draft, basically an outline that's got scribbles in it, and help someone fill in those holes. They also have ghostwriters where people will actually write for you. And while I do ghostwriting, I'm not advocating here that this is for ghostwriting opportunities. This is for people who actually want to do the work themselves.
Allison, that was so good and inspirational, and just all of the things, when you said there's two things that are really hard, like it's hard work and it's lonely. I think it's also like the hard work part. Can you talk a little bit about when you're writing a nonfiction book about how I think a lot of the hard work part is having to go really deep within yourself. Like you kind of have to backtrack right to that lesson. And then you have to really think about, like, I think, for myself, there's definitely a message and a way that I want to help people. But then you have to go back and take that journey that you just took us through. Can you talk a little bit about how you've done that for yourself?
Yes. I believe in connecting deeply with an audience, and sometimes you have to cry through it, which is the hard part. Another hard part. You don't want to necessarily relive that hard thing. It's that hard thing that got you to where you are now. And it's that hard thing that other people are experiencing it. So there's different types of, there's inspirational books, like books that are they're more inspirational rather than a memoir. And there's books that are more self-help than inspirational, and, self-discovery. But all of them, in my opinion, require you to go deep, require you to ask those hard questions and be vulnerable, which is part of the process. It's also part of the hard part with writing. When you write and you publish, you can write to yourself and you can journal all you want. When you publish, you are giving the world your words, and your words no longer belong to you. Imagine that they're feathers that have flown out of a pillow. You can't get them back. And so they're out in the world. You need to be okay with that. One of the things that you should do is make sure that as you are writing, you are creating content that you are okay sharing. And that's really, that's a huge step right there, is creating content that you are okay sharing. But it's the vulnerability that creates the connection. I said before, writing is an intimate process. Reading is an intimate process. And so you're creating an intimate relationship with your audience.
Thank you. Yeah. I think that's a lot of times why people, I loved what Marcy said. Why don't people write it? Like they say, I want to write the book, but then you get to it and then you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to put that out. Or it's like, oh, that feels scary, or that is taking me back, or kind of like that time, right, to reflect and get past that. So thank you for taking us on the journey.
Absolutely. I'm going to go ahead and say thank you so much for joining me today. This has been fun. It's putting me out of my comfort zone. I can talk all day long about stuff, but when I'm actually the only person talking, it's very, again, it's creating that intimate relationship. It's not any different than writing.
Right. Well, thank you, Allison. Have a great night.
Yeah, thank you so much.
too.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye, guys.